We launched one of the first weather satellites in the 1960s, early 60s, Tyros, and then on we were spoiled being able to spot storms brewing and heading towards us. Up in front, it's hard to believe the VAB is standing 525 feet tall. And that's about half as tall as the Empire State Building in New York City. But it was designed to stack up 4 Saturn V moon rockets. 2 huge bays on the left or western side, another 2 in the eastern behind the NASA limit. Nowadays, we only stack shuttles in the eastern bays, and those are being reworked for the Space Launch System, as you'll see. Though it's half as tall as the Empire State, if you brought that building down here, broke it in sections, it could fit inside. 3 3/4 times, lots of room. And while you're there, you might as well get Yankee Stadium, the baseball park from the Bronx. Yankee Stadium would easily fit on the roof, with about an acre left over for parking. We were careful not to burn an area of woods ahead to the left, about the 11 o'clock position on the other side. That contains a now 46-year-old eagle nest. You'll see it on the way back. They'll show you a close-up video. Going this direction, though, the best way to spot it is using these double electric poles off to the left as a sort of guide. Now, not the double set we're coming to and passing here, or the next 2 sets. There's the 4th set buried in the trees, but there's an opening in the first line of pines. Look through that, past the poles, to the tall tree in the 2nd row. Right near the top of the 2nd row tree is the round mass of the nest, and you'll see it on the way back too. So coming to this break, past the poles and the tall tree behind, right here. Now that nest is estimated to weigh between 700 and 800 pounds.
Wow.
About the surface area of a king-size mattress, eagles can have up to 3 eaglets every year of their life down here. Imagine having 3 kids a year, but here's how they do it. Once the youngsters are fledged, flying on their own, they'll go north to the Carolinas for the summer. In the fall, mom and dad come down. You juniors are not allowed to come home after college. Well, back to the VAB. The American flag all by itself is 209 feet long. That's like a 21-story building painted on the side. Each star about 6 feet or 2 meters point to point, and the blue field behind about the size of a regulation basketball court. The gray doors go up 456 feet, only 6 feet of clearance rolling a Saturn V through. We'd open them halfway to get a shuttle through. And page 5 and 6 of the booklets that give a good comparison to the craft being rolled out. Speaking of shuttles, our orbiter fleet have their own quarters, or had their own quarters directly in front of us. The square cream-colored buildings, orbiter processing facilities, they're hangars. Used to be they'd be towed in after a landing, cleaned up in a few months, ready to fly, readied in there for museum display. As we mentioned, Discovery already at the Udvar-Hazy extension of the Smithsonian at Dulles Airport, Washington. Endeavour most recently to the California Science Center in Los Angeles. Atlantis right now is in the left high bay of the Vehicle Assembly Building, High Bay 4, on the Ferrari transporter that would move her to be stacked. She'll be going up the road here a week from now on the other side to the visitor complex. But you'll be able to tell that orbiters lived in the hangars in front when we get on the other side. Big gray doors to let the 78-foot wingspan through, a skinny door in the center for the 56-foot high tail to clear. Now, since we're using our engines off orbiters in the future, we actually have engine bells on there built by the manufacturer, but not the space specifications. So by the real people that built the engines, but not space-worthy. The rest of the orbiter, though, appears as she did after a landing. We don't clean them up. The heat streaking is really from the outgassing from up to 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit on re-entry. So she looks pretty much as she did after that final landing a year ago, July. The right side high bay of the VAB has the crawler transporter that's being upgraded with the cranes in there. We'll see if the doors are open. With the weather, probably not, but we'll see. Yeah, they are. They use natural sunlight to work with, so you'll see it near the bottom in the right side high bay, a lighter gray. We'll show you the other one outside a little later. We'll also be turning down the very road that all the orbiters were towed to be serviced. And the blue line down the middle is what we put the nose wheel on so we wouldn't bang a wingtip. When we turn, you'll see how the blue line goes all the way to the north face of the VAB. This is where the orbiter would be towed horizontally through the doors, cable cranes picking it up, turning it to the vertical, and attaching to tank and boosters. Directly in front of us, these are the surrounds that would be around the shuttle stack in High Bay 3 with the work platforms. We took them out with the overhead cranes. They're being turned into scrap because we're going to need new ones for the future, that much bigger rocket. So all these pieces would be stacked on top of each other in High Bay 3. The north side door up here wasn't tall enough to get the tail of the orbiter through. We had to add that white cutout notch where she was brought in. Previous tour bus still inside the fence, so we're not allowed to go in until they come out for security. But when we pass the building on the left, you'll get a view of one of the 3 shuttle launch platforms where the crawler brought it back last year after Endeavour's flight. Normally they'd be checked out, cleaned up, brought into the VAB to stack a shuttle, but there it sits. And underneath is NASA's people mover that jacks straight up. We'd use that to get the crews from the space station off the orbiter after being 6 months on orbit. You don't walk too well in gravity after that, so they come off horizontally onto that to their quarters. OPF number 3 to the left has been taken over by Boeing Aerospace for their command and service module project that will fly to the space station. Still see some of the surrounds that would be around the orbiter with the work platforms when she would be horizontal in there. We're taking those out too. Now, NASA started a DOSA program some months ago. Some of the folks that were laid off after shuttle stopped flying have come back to volunteer, give you some idea of what they did and answer questions for you. You never know who it's going to be from day to day. We're going in the side entrance. Since the wind's so high, they didn't want to open up the roll-up door in the orbiter door here, because it would just whip you right through. A couple more numbers on Atlantis. We mentioned she had 126 million miles behind her. Her first flight was in October of 1985. Last flight, July of 2011, just over a year ago. And that was 33 flights in all. And if you do see the IMAX film in 3D about the Hubble telescope at that final servicing mission, it was Atlantis that flew up to her. And so she's featured in there along with her crew. Again, a week from today, she'll be moving up to the visitor complex, so probably a week from yesterday is the final time to see her over here this close up. Please do stay together as a tight group when we go in.